Children absorb stress in the home. Sometimes it's because the children, sometimes it's because the parents don't know how to deal with the children, and sometimes it's simply the husband and wife don't know how to communicate with each other.
Communication.
Yeah, communication is a big word.
Lack of communication causes issues.
Yeah, when a couple or an individual comes in and says they have a problem with Shalom Bayis, I have to listen carefully. What they present on the surface is usually just what they're arguing, fighting about. Right. What's causing it.
Right.
So the first part I would call an evaluation, to listen carefully and to understand that there are issues that are underlying that's causing the conflict.
Beruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program. With special guest today, we have with us Rabbi Mordechai Twersky, Shlita Baruch Haba, all the way from Brooklyn. So good to have the Rav at the Chazaq headquarters. Thanks for joining us.
I'm honored to be here.
Baruch Hashem, Chazdei Hashem, thank you Hashem, thank God. And the topic is Shalom Bayis, from conflict to connection, which is a very important topic. Before we get to that topic, we get a little bit of background about the Rav and the great work the Rav is involved with.
Well, just a little background. I was born in Denver, Colorado, and for a number of years, for 20 years, lived in Denver as a Rav and running primarily kiruv programs. And then when our younger children started, I have my younger three daughters, there was difficulties with the community and the schools, and we sent our children to New York. My in-laws, Aleim Shalom, were here in New York. We spent 2 years going back and forth to realize we can't do that.
Right.
So I went to my posek of David Cohen and I asked him, he says, I give you permission to move to New York as long as you keep on doing what you were doing there.
How's that possible?
So we started the shul, actually in the basement of our home, a small minyan, and within 6 months there was no more room in the basement. Oh. And we rented a storefront, and within a year there was no more room in the storefront. And we bought a building that had a home that had a fire, and we renovated it, and we, Baruch Hashem, expanded the building 4 times since then.
Wow, can I know?
So Baruch Hashem, the
community grew.
Yeah, so the understanding what America has to offer, I'm very familiar with it. I grew up in America, grew up in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s.
Wow.
And then you come back moved into the Torah community, the film community in New York. And initially I looked at it, I didn't understand it. I said, what's going on here? There's something, and people started coming talking to me because they knew my background. And I realized that there's a piece of Torah that, a bridge between the therapeutic community and the Torah community, there was a big gap.
Right.
So working together with Rabbanim and therapists to create a bridge, which Baruch Hashem today, there's quite a number of these, what we'll call coaches, Torah coaches, who help Shalom Bayis with Torah perspectives. Because until the last maybe almost 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that, the stigma of a frum couple going to a therapist was very high.
Right.
They didn't want to, the Rabbanim did not trust the therapist, and the therapist didn't trust the Rabbanim. So the Nefesh organization, which has helped a lot with that, and these programs that run like Karav and Nafshi, are all building the ability of Torah to address the problems of Shalom Bayis. Peace in the house, literally, needs to be completed.
100%.
So that's a little bit the background.
Right, Baruch Hashem. So in the realm of Shalom Bayis, which is the topic, what are the underlying reasons couples seek help?
They're obviously stressed at in their home. Conflict, sometimes it's the conflict that comes out because the children are misbehaving and the parents want to know what's wrong with the children, where it's really the parents. With the conflict that's taking place. Children absorb stress in the home. So sometimes it's because the children, sometimes it's because the parents don't know how to deal with the children, and sometimes it's simply the husband and wife don't know how to communicate with each other.
Communication.
Yeah, communication is a big word.
Yeah. Lack of communication causes issues.
Yeah, except for so when a couple or an individual comes in and says they have a problem with Shalom Bayis, I have to listen carefully. What they present on the surface is usually just what they're arguing, fighting about, what's causing it.
Right.
So the first one I would call an evaluation, to listen carefully and to understand that there are issues that are underlying that's causing the conflict. So we can go the alphabet, ADD, ADHD, OCD,
the ABC, the XYZ, everything.
Right? And we know that you can't use labels. If we label a person and say, you know what your problem is, you have ADD, the person's out the door. So we say, I see that you're having difficulty keeping yourself focused on one thing at a time. He says, yeah, I know, that's what I do. I do everything well. That's in my business. I'm always running around and doing this. And I listen, and I see that the difficulty is that, for example, the person is multitasking all the time, including in the conversations with their wife.
Right.
And the wife saying, you're never talking to me, you cut me off in the middle, right? That type of thing.
Right.
So that, and if you want to call it anxiety and depression, which are all fairly well linked together, there are medications that work temporarily.
Temporary.
So I was on the way here. I was thinking of a conversation I had with a couple who had some fairly serious problems. I realized that the husband was not only AD, he was hyperactive as well, and it was affecting his business. He was in computers. He couldn't get his business together, and so we got him on some simple basic medication, and things were really good for a year or two. And then the wife called me up. They're back the way they were. So I called the husband and I said, what's going on? He says, are you still taking the medication? He says, no. I said, why not? He says, because I realized that this person who I was becoming, who thinks about one thing at a time, is not me. It's not me. So I wasn't comfortable with the fact that the medication was making me feel like I was not me, so I stopped the medication. So I understand what was happening. So medication, for the most part, is a temporary patch, sometimes long-term. Depression, etc., could be long-term, but that doesn't address the underlying causes for it. Anxiety is learned at a young age, and therefore it can be unlearned even later on in life. Depression, which very often comes as a product of anxiety and not being able to find answers. So if you help them find answers to what they're struggling with, then the depression lifts. So yes, we generate all sorts of wonderful things to help people start to laugh about what their weaknesses are, and recognize that there is a way to help them change their thinking and behavior. Changing behavior is easier. Getting to change the way that their brain is programmed is harder. I have developed, together with a couple of alternative, I don't call it healers, but people who deal with alternative treatments, fairly quick way to demonstrate how a person's thinking. I could show it to you right now. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Put out your right arm. Okay. I'm going to push down. Right.
Okay.
This come from chiropractic.
Should I resist?
Resist. Okay. Resist.
Okay.
Good. Am I pushing hard?
Not hard enough, I guess.
Okay. Good. I'm pushing down hard.
I guess so.
So I want you to say, I am strong.
I am strong.
Come on. Push. Resist. Okay. Say it again.
I am strong.
Yeah. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to resist? Say,
Yeah.
I am weak.
I am weak. Wow.
Our brain is programmed. When we say the words, I am strong,
You're strong.
strong. When we say I am weak,
You're weak.
then I ask the wife to say it while I'm holding the husband's hand. And the husband, when the wife says, I am weak, the husband's hand goes down.
Wow.
Right? So you realize that our brains are mirroring each other's thought processes.
The power of our speech also.
Yeah.
Power of our words.
The power of our words, the power of our thinking, and
Minds.
it affects our entire body. I can test your legs. One of the ways to test it, which I do all the time, because I don't tell them what I'm doing, is watching their eyes. because the eyes follow which side of the brain is processing information.
Very interesting.
So these are just basically, and I do this right away at the beginning to let them know that I understand that what they're experiencing now is because of the way they've learned how to think and how to start thinking differently.
Very powerful.
Okay. So when it comes to working with couples and able to work with what we call insight into what's happening underneath the surface, then it's not so hard to make change, and it's also not so hard to get them to get therapeutic help or medication. We have, Baruch Hashem, from the psychiatrists who are available and understand. When the husband says, "I can't get up for davening," and his wife is saying, "I'm very upset. My husband's not going to davening." The psychiatrist understands.
He understands. Yeah, he
understands. It's not just. It's not depression. It's affecting the entire home.
100%. And then the wife looks down at the husband.
And the wife looks down at the husband. And the husband feels bad about himself. And
right.
The cycle of...
So addressing these issues, what's the most effective ways to address these issues that are happening?
Okay. So there are, for most of the behavioral problems, there are ways to help, either with medication or with a good therapeutic program, alternative to the standard therapy, and there are now some really good things, workbooks that you can take from a couple with kosher workbooks and help them work through so they can see where the thinking has gotten them into trouble and how to get them to think differently. So
from writers, from publishers?
Some are from some of them, but some of them are just simply good workbooks.
Good workbooks.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. There's some really nice workbooks, which in a conversation, when you start, the person says, "Yeah, I got it." It says, "Here, let's take this workbook. Let's work through the thought process." Oh, they didn't get it. But when they sit down to write it through, follow a workbook process, and write through an exercise, the change starts to become real. Because we know, machshava dibur ma'aseh, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. When a person is thinking, "I need to change," and I say, "I'm willing to change," and I sit down and write what it takes for me to change, it becomes very effective, and it's much more effective than what we call armchair therapy.
Armchair therapy, sitting down.
Yeah. Even though that's no longer such a prevalent practice. Armchair therapy is almost out of the window.
Really?
Yeah. Especially among the Torah world. Therapists recognize, from therapists who sees a problem and they're trying to struggle with it, they feel the pain. And they understand, I have therapists that have lists that they say every day, everything before their clients.
Wow.
Because they care. And maybe that's what has helped us a lot.
What steps can be taken to prevent such challenges from arising in the first place? So the couple doesn't have to get to this point of whether it's therapy or the...
See, it depends. It depends on was these problems first noticed when they were still young, before they got married. Part of the difficulty is that you can take a girl, go to Beis Yaakov or Yeshiva, and as long as they're not making trouble, nobody bothers them.
Right, they're doing well on their report cards, doing well with the test.
They could be doing, say they're making it through.
Making it through.
I had one young man who, after I'm talking to him for a while, his wife was complaining, I realized he never learned how to read Ivra.
Younger man meaning a Kol guy?
Kol guy.
He doesn't know how to read?
No.
So what does
he passed through everything, all his beginners, by memorizing everything.
Wow.
He had a great memory, right? But because his mind had to use memory and nobody ever caught that he really actually never learned how to read. So if the problem was caught earlier on, before they get married, then it can be addressed fairly easily at the beginning of a marriage. But the difficulty is that so many of these alphabets, so many of the underlying diagnoses, are not caught until they're well into the marriage, when it's starting to interfere with the day-to-day
Why
function.
would him not being able to read affect his marriage?
Yeah, because his wife wanted to know how come he's not learning with chavrusas. He says, well, because I go to daven, I sit down, I learn afterwards. Yeah, and also she realized that there's something missing. He's not the Ben Torah that she thought he was. Mm-hmm. In his mind, he was. Mm-hmm. But in their relationship, she realized it was a gap. Mm-hmm. There was something wrong. And when I sat down to talk to him, I talked to him individually, I started trying to catch what the underlying problem. The problem was that he had some learning disability as a child, and he learned how to get through the system.
Wow.
So if we can catch these things, and the yeshivas have become much more astute and aware than they ever were. They're trying to catch, when they see a learning disability or a behavioral disability in a child, they try and address it now before. But we have, in the Torah world, still, if a child seems to be functioning well and not making trouble, it's very easy for them to fall under the radar.
Well, there was a family that mentioned to me that how the child that quote unquote caused trouble, Baruch Hashem, in their marriage and life, Baruch Hashem, they're doing much better. But while the child that was okay in school, like the rabbi is mentioning, is struggling, but that could just be because they just went through it. So it's very important to try to be alert and to realize and to pay attention underlying issues that Chashem God forbid could only get worse.
So this is, so you want to know how to prevent it?
Yeah.
It's early detection.
Early detection.
Because once they're married and they're already adults, so 95% of the brain and its patterns are fully developed by the age of 20. Age of 6, 65%, bar mitzvah, another 10%, puberty, another 10%. By the time a couple, Ben Torah comes into marriage at the age of 20, 22, 23, 95% of his patterns of communication are already set. Mm. So how much could we make a change?
5%.
5%.
And it's very hard to change.
It's hard to do. None of us like to change. We're all accustomed to where everything goes.
Wow.
So then, when that happens, we have not prevented it before. If we can catch it early on in the early ages of development, it's much easier to help deal with it.
So the correlation between, I know the Torah talk is about Shalom Bayis, peace in the home. The correlation with regards to chinuch, with regards to child rearing, raising children, the rabbi said, we understand in the beginning, is that it's very much connected, meaning if the children are misbehaving, it causes issues with regards to the Shalom Bayis, peace in the home. How can we prevent, I'm saying, obviously, I say over a thing on Sheva Brachas, I speak Baruch Hashem a lot here, then everywhere, and one of the messages is that Shabechi or Shalom Shabechi is Rashi Tevot, the letter spelled Shalom Bayis, Chinuch Yeladim, peace in the home, and Shabechi means to praise. The more you praise the family, the wife, the husband, whatever it is, the more praise and positive energy in the house, the more you're going to have peace in the home, the more you're going to have good children.
And then when it's not happening, then it affects every part of their life and it affects the children as well.
Right.
And as we know, divorce, which is now becoming a bigger problem, and the children that are growing up in split homes are struggling when they're in Torah institutions, because they come into school trying to solve their parents' problems, and they can't pay attention to what's going on in class. And emotionally, they're not being developed correctly, so they don't know how to interact with each other.
Wow.
So these are many of the issues that are facing the Torah world in today's world that are what we call mental health issues. Baruch Hashem, the mental health, I don't call industry, the mental health community that based Torah has made many advances in trying to get into.
It's grown tremendously.
Which is a machai, because then I know that if I have a particular type of struggle that needs to be addressed therapeutically, I know who to send them to. And I have rabbonim who understand the issues and will not give up sak halacha without taking into regard what the underlying issues are. I just had that with a couple just recently. The wife went to one rav who gave up sak, which tore apart the family, and then I sent them to a rav who understood the issues, and it was a breath of fresh air.
No. Very, very, very informative Torah talk, Shalom Bayis, from conflict to connection. Very, very important to have proper communication and connect with the right individuals to guide them. We have a minhag, a custom, a Chazaq Torah Talks that's the final message for our broad audience.
Coming to New York back 20-odd years ago, I realized that one of the things that was needed is that Chosin teachers and Rabbonim need to be guided on how to work with Shalom Bayis. So I set up a series of seminars, which we had 150 participants. I just finishing up one group up in Lakewood, one of the Koilulim, on how to teach B'nai Torah who are going into Rabbonos, going into
the rabbin,
right, going into the needs of the community,
right,
how to understand, how to evaluate, and how to help them, guide them, tools that are Torah-based. All Munchava and all Parsha Bereshis is full with the guidance of how to deal with Shalom Bayis. From Adam Munchava in the garden to Lamech and his wives.
Right. Torah, I always say, is Hora. Hora is the way of life. It shows you. By learning Torah, by delving into the Torah, you could find out, turn it on, you can find lessons and messages that are apropos to everyday life. We could become better people.
So, using Torah skills, I call it Torah-based family therapy. Teaching Rosh Koilulim and Chosin and Kala teachers how to use Torah to help them with the tools that they're looking for has made a tremendous difference. I keep getting calls from them over the years, and how do I deal with this? And
right.
I had one young man sitting at the table, so she was, I'm married for 15 years, and this is the first time I'm learning this. He was taking the course. So.
Wow, amazing. Rabbi Mordechai Twersky, thank you very, very, very much. Yag the Torah V'yadir, we should only hear B'sorot Tovat, only good news. We want to thank everyone for joining us. Chazaq Torah Talks, amazing Torah Talk with Rabbi Mordechai Twersky. We want to thank our various different platforms that are hosting the Chazaq Torah Talks, with a special thanks to our friends at Torah Anytime. A special thank you to Daily Giving. $1 a day goes a very, very far way. We encourage everyone to look into it and become a daily giver. Want to thank Natan behind the camera and the entire Chazaq staff team, volunteers, board members, supporters. Baruch Hashem, so much great things happening with the organization. Rabbi, you should know the summer we're the busiest, as you saw over here, to get kids out of the public school system into the yeshivot. Baruch Hashem, over 2,000 neshamot. Children have already been transferred. Chazei Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And just the beginning, we want to do a lot more. We need everyone to get involved. Please, if you have a family member, a friend, a neighbor that could use Chazaq's help, we're always ready, willing, and able. We do need more individuals to get involved and support the great work of Chazaq. Chazaq.org/donate. Chazaq.org/live is Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Our Torah Talks with special guests. And once again, we should only hear B'sorot Tovat, only good news.
Thank you very much.
Amazing, Rabbi Twersky.